Fish123 now going to be playing up against absolute legends. Both of these teams won their first game of today in Group B. My name is Ryan Central. Sorry about the 20-minute delay. The absolute legend game against Valorant went to all the way in the best of 3, and then the final game was 12-all. And absolute legends narrowly winning it out. So we had a bit more of a break just because they basically, if we were on time, they would have finished their game and immediately started playing against Fish123. So they needed to get, go to the toilet, get a drink, get a snack or whatever. Needed a bit more of a break, hence why we are a bit delayed. Same with the other game currently. So what, we're 20 minutes behind, but be on time for future games coming in too. First map we will be going to will be Split, and that's exactly what we're seeing on screen currently. Absolute Legends will be defending first. Down to the wire game against Valorant. Really good to watch. Prodigies was exceptional by Smile, and if you want to check out what's going on between Bottom Boars and Valorant, the game that's also happening in this group at the exact same time, twitch.tv/SM9LE_smile, but with a 9 instead of an L. Bit of utility already baited out on this A side. It's Ice Paper Hands playing the Brimstone, and it's just going to be making a ruckus. Forces out the wall early. You can have a look at who's playing who. In one, we got Carcass that's going to be on the Brimstone for Absolute Legends. A mixed team of nationalities. The team that you didn't expect to be all that strong, but they won the Wave Invitational earlier this week against Dream Chasers, who qualified yesterday in the grand final there. So this is a team that honestly has a lot to stand for, really. Carcass get a kill onto Link that's boxed up in the corner. Eccles gets 2, lining up Carcass and then Cider, who's playing a Raze. Boaster is also coming in to play on the Sage. You can look at the rest of the lineup because we haven't seen these guys yet. Species is going to be on the Breach. Doing this for my own sake more than anything. And the last play that we haven't really had a look at just yet is Zik on Cypher. So pretty much a typical EU lineup. The race is preferred mostly for EU teams. Both teams pretty much running mirrors of one another. Soulcast, we've seen him already playing the race pretty much all day. Eccles will be on the Breach. Link on the Sage. Cryptic's on the Cypher. As typically planned. Speaking of typically, Soulcast destroying the camera from Zik on this left-hand side, but the majority of action is actually going to be happening on the A side. As Ice Paper Hands gets killed into Carcass. Going to peek around this corner, exactly where Boaster is. Be super low, he's forced to heal, but Cryptics can follow up because he has the bigger and better gun. Phantom is going to be picked up. There's only going to be Species on the site, holding close with a pistol. This is no doubt going to be an angle that Fish123 try and check, or there might be an angle that he extends himself to. Yeah, this is going to be a Link being able to spray in. Gets a second. Now it's just going to be Zik left in the server for Absolute Legends. Could come in nicely, but yeah, again, we see Fish123 picking this map. It's their map choice. I have the feeling that they're just trying to practice. Great time to really against teams that they really should be taking the W from. Nothing against Absolute Legend, but if you're playing against a team like Fish, it's a safe assumption that you're not going to win these matches. Speaking of matches and engagement, Soulcast peeks him out, shuts that down. Now we're going to see Absolute Legends being able to buy, so this might be a good opportunity to bring them back into the game. The Valorant Ford on Balls game has just started. And that one's no doubt going to be a close one too. Ford on Balls obviously want to get a couple of wins, try and qualify for the playoffs. Get the best seeding as possible, really. If they can top their group, but that's going to be hard when you have Fish123 in your group. But Boaster starts the defense off nicely, killing nice paper hands. Spike is in that direction. Cryptix is going to rotate. As it gets a similar kill towards B, so the last 3 members of Fish123 alive towards mid. Inside is giving up a lot of space. Happy to do that. Mukaka's picking off Link as they're pushing through. Gonna peek and see Cider, who gets a nice kill. Just one more left to get. It's just gonna be Cryptix left. Trying to catch a rotation off that isn't looking. Yes, Beezy's just completely unaware. Cider is in this corner on the left hand side. You can see the little icon above their little head. Cryptix is gonna peek at leg, and Cider's just gonna... An easy kill. Absolute Legends picking off Fish123 one by one. Fairly easy. Ice Paper Hands down on A. Soulcast down on B. Losing those 1v1 engagements, but didn't have the bigger, better guns. Now they can afford to get something a little bit better for themselves, but doesn't inherently mean that they have the round sorted then. I have a weird casting style when I solo cast. I feel like I'm doing some like Olympic sport. Speezy rotating all the way down to A. There's now 3 on that side, and mid is just left up to Cider, who still has the paint shell and blast packs to keep them at bay. But slows and walls are not going to be there. Boaster's going to be on A site where they're pushing for more intel, but there's nobody there, and this is going to be a lot of people pushing from Fish123. The flash is going to come through, and Cider's going to back out. Paint shell is going to land exactly where Eccles is, and luckily doesn't do too much damage, but forces him away completely. All of this utility from Cider being used, including the flash, which doesn't catch Link. Manages to survive, and there's a big spray battle going on. Speezy gets the kill onto Ice Paper Hands, but Link makes sure it's evened up. 4 versus 3 now. This defense is now leaning onto sight. Zik can kill Soulcast, but Eccles just comes out of heaven on the top and gets a nice stun, actually, onto Boaster. Aftershock is going to create a bit of distance for him, and the Cyber Cage also allows that. Eccles just playing with danger there a little bit. There's the last 2 defenders. Carcass and Boaster are trying to push on through. The spike has been planted. There's 30 seconds left, maybe, and they've got to try and peek and noisily go over every angle as they put themselves into a 2 versus 2. Eccles is still alive on this corner, as is Cryptix. Eccles is a lot weaker. Cryptix is going to try and rotate around. They aren't necessarily sure if and where he is, but Peek's there. 33 health, 1 versus 1. Carcass is going to dedicate to defuse. There's not really going to be enough time, and not only that, Carcass gets the kill. Down to the wire map between these 2 teams. Absolute Legends showing that they can play with the big boys. That's a big thing from them, and I'll definitely hold my hand up and say when I saw this squad and how it was put together, I was like, I don't know if they're going to be even a top 10 team in EU. Never mind, you know, take wins off teams like Fish123. It's still early days to say that that's the case yet, but this team has promise. And they have the right backing and have a little bit of a fan base now too, I've seen. They've obviously been playing in the tournament, the organisation of the same name. Shout out to Butt Me Up that's also been solo casting those games. It's certainly not easy, but he makes it an absolute delight to watch. Speaking of delight, Carcass gets a nice headshot onto Ice Paper Hands, who so far has been the first blood death the whole time. Orbital Strike is going to land exactly where the majority of Fish123 are. Doesn't really do too much damage. It's a threat. Eccles did get hit, but you can see that he's still got the majority of his health and armor. He's going to try and push onto this high ground. He's going to get flashed by Speezy. There's a bit of an exchange between both the teams, bringing it down to, again, a 3 versus 3. Ultimates on either side. The Resurrect is available on this defense. The issue, of course, is that Boaster is awkwardly cordoned off onto this site, and everybody that's dead on his team is on Heaven, so he has to rotate a rather unsafe way. It seems like that's what he wants to do, but Ramp is going to be pushed hard by the remaining members. Fish123 rolling for the good to come across. The slow too, just to trap anybody there, but Cider is actually holding towards the back, and the Showstopper's going to come through. Blastpack is allowing him to jump through the smokes, fires it, but the spike is rotating towards B. That's exactly where Zik is going to hold, and he's going to hold very last minute. The tripwire comes in, and he gets a nice double headshot. Sets himself up really nicely there. Does Absolute Legends now take the lead? Big game sound should be a bit louder now. It is loud in my headset, but I can fix that on my end. Here. They found my wire. Of course, there is a bit of delay between me and you, chat, so do bear that in mind, but let me know if the audio's a bit better there. Might be a bit louder than it looks for me, but... Or might be quieter than it looks for me, even. Just the lot of members of Fish123 that have pretty much only been holding on to ghosts in a pretty hard eco. Now down to a 3 versus 4, so they've been able to do a little bit of damage, but nothing that's too concerning. If you're Absolute Legends, you have the guns and the utility, and the attack doesn't have all that much. Carcass can get 2 lined up. There's only going to be Eccles left. He hears the reload, so knows roughly where he's going to be, but can he get a third? It seems that way. The Phantom puts it down to give Farkas 4 kills in this round. And a bit more of a bump up on this lead. They're on defense, so they of course have the advantage there, but need to do whatever they can before they flip over to the attacking side where things might become a lot harder. Yeah, do let me know if the audio's good now, chat. I'm keeping a keen eye on it. Carcass now, where the operator is going to hold a bit further forward in the wall. Preemptively used yet again by Boaster. I'm not necessarily too much of a fan, but obviously you can do quite a lot with this peak. Having that intel there is pretty big news. Meanwhile, Vic on the B site did manage to tag Soulcast, who is in the garage area. Scaring him off a little bit as there's a big engagement actually happening mid. Link could get a kill onto Speezy just as his teammate goes down, so they've taken a bit of space towards A. There's a bit of a commotion, I suppose, on Absolute Legends side, who aren't necessarily sure where they want to hold. Link trying to catch the rotation, or at least slow it down, but as we can see, there's absolutely nobody there. Zika's going to push a bit further up inside him, avoids the orbital strike, but is just going to wrap around to go B, which is exactly where the latter members of Fish123 are going to go. They just need to be careful how they peek this. The Cider is holding towards CT. Link gets a nice link up, but they aren't expecting where Vic is holding all the way down into garage, but he's going to get walled off. The spike is going to get planted. 2 members now left of Absolute Legends. Boaster is wrapping around the top and taking these angles one by one. Gets a nice kill on Ice Paper Hands, but brought out the utility at the wrong time. 1 versus 1. Vic versus Link. And it's going to be the typical World of Warcraft pillar humping as they rotate around. And Link getting his 4th. Blistering onto the site. Really well played from Fish123 to bring themselves back into this. But if you're Absolute Legends, you're not too worried. Look at all of the money that they have. Literally, Cider is capped out on cash. And it's bye for the whole team. And a few ultimates, more ultimates on the defense than now on the attack. Voice shouldn't be as loud now. Audio's still a little low. I can bump it up a little bit more. Rolling for this going to come through. I can see that the game's a little bit louder than I am, so I'm just going to turn it down a little. Of course, you've got to bear in mind that the game can be loud in really certain situations, but if I've used on the attacking side to work out how much space they have to work with. B is going to get hit relatively quickly, but the tripwire is going to slow them down a little bit. Might even use that to bait around, but they've left a spike. Link has to pick it up, so this might be a great play to just sort of rotate around, but Boaster's going to push through this line of smokes. Catch Eccles, but Eccles might be caught out entirely by Carcass, and that's exactly what happens. B-site is going to be hit, and Boaster's just going to check these angles carefully. Does have the orbital strike available for them if they want to clear out a particular area, but you can see how well placed all Fish123 are on this defense. Well, on the attack, but playing retake, so effectively now defending the site. It seems absolute legends are willing to give this up and save. Only thing really used was the neural theft on this attack. So far, so good for both teams, really. I think this is the good game plan going. Of course, Absolute Legends are going to be a bit upset that their momentum, a bit of a dip, 4 rounds in a row. Now, Fish123 grabbing a game by the scruff of the neck and trying to do more with it. Guns again going to be available on both sides, but whoever loses this will have to either force or eco the next. At least that's what seems likely. Keep the audio as it is now, will do. There's some really loud bits of the game, as you can imagine. It was Fish123 that picked this map. They did it as well against Ford on Boars, so unconventional, a little bit controversial to be picking this map straight away, but forces the enemy on an awkward map that most people don't tend to want to play. And I guess for Fish123, it's good practice. Speaking of good practice, Carcass is able to get a few easy shots in. The slow orb is going to be used to keep people away, but that resurrect is going to be a clear indication of where they're wanting to push. And it catches Soulcast, who had just died already, was resurrected and then killed again. What could have been done? And Echo's killing onto Carcass. Shows how much he loves that role, but does get punished a bit by Boaster, who's still holding onto the site. Ice Paper Hands can deal with that, though. The operator in that corner is able to do a lot of work. Species is now rotating all the way around on 10 health, so he's going to go behind him as the defense starts to use neural theft in, and everybody is on site, and the grenade from Cider that we just missed catches Ice Paper Hands, who must have been fairly low from the battle going on. There's 2 members now awkwardly holding on the site. Link and Cryptics. Bring it down to a 2 versus 2. Species gets a bit over punishing. Cryptics could trade, and the showstopper's going to come through on the corner. Brings Cryptics down to 32 health, and he's going to try to take this engagement. He's forced to reload, so he's going to bring out the classic. He's going to try and right-click, but the grenade is going to finish it off. Cider with his 3rd. Brings a defuse in with enough time on the board, it seems. Running Thunder is going to be used towards A as Fish123 decides to start to hit it again. Speezy gets a kill, does get traded, and Boaster is just going to be bullied off of the site. Cactus is in the smoke with the operator, can't make too much use out of heaven, and exposes himself to try and get a shot. Can't do too much, but Cider can. On 11 health. Back into this side. Gonna try and catch off Ice Paper Hands, who's the last person alive. So Brimstone, this is Brimstone 1v1. Spike hasn't been planted. So that's not really the win condition now for Ice Paper Hands. It's to take an awkward angle for Carcass to be able to deal with, and manages to do so. Be interested to see if this sort of sticks to the way it's been going on the flip side of this half. Penultimate round. Both teams really close, neck and neck almost. Well, exactly neck and neck. There's a bit of a force coming out now of absolute legends. Buy what they can. Awkward if they lose this one, but Carcass is giving him a good clear way of that can't happen. All push onto mid aggressively and then hold the sides, but mid is sort of giving up a little bit. So the middle room is going to be pushed hard. Speezy is here alongside Cider, but they both get killed by Link. Just need to kill Vec that's on this site. Or Zik, sorry. Cryptix does get it. Vec is another player entirely. Don't know why I confused the two, but for a bit more space. But again, it's Carcass. It's going to be Boaster. Tend to be the last two alive in a lot of these retakes and a lot of these clutches, but might be the better idea to save. So we won't have much money for the next round, and I think that's what they're going to do. Interested to see the Fish123 aren't going to push up. They're not going to try and take these guns away from Absolute Legends. I think they'd rather just play it safe, and probably the wise thing to do, right? When you're this close between the two teams. Taking 6 rounds on attack is considered very good. They should, by all rights, have a stronger defense because Split is defensively sided. It's statistically very much the case. Defenders have a 16% more of a win rate on defense and attack. The stats were brought by Anders, a YouTuber that's been keeping up to date with all of the hero pick rates and win rates and what maps have certain map biases. What comps are good, what comps are bad. Absolute legends with the absolute diabolical CT side. Thanks, Twitch chat. You could... But is it considered a bad side? Well, what they got to buy now? So if they get this and they go and... Is it bad if a team goes into half-time with only 6 rounds on the defense? I don't know if I'd consider it bad, but it's certainly not ideal. I was just going to rotate around. Soulcast is going to open this up. 7-5 on the defense. Yeah, it's going to be a lot worse, and that's what Fish123 want to do. Plant is going to come in towards the back of the east site. Buster's going to rotate around to screens alongside the Raisin Cypher. Slow's going to come through, but it's not going to get too much. The Orbital Strike is going to catch up Speezy. There's no way of him to be able to realistically get out of there. Manages to do so, actually. Surprised by the skin of his teeth as Soulcast gets 2. Showstopper is going to be used on the other side. Cider killing Soulcast, so now it's just going to be the one left. Cider tripping up and Cryptix's tripwire. Fish123 goes 7-5 up before their defending round. This is where the overall switcheroo comes in with the scores because of the spectating bug. So what it does, chat, is it says here that Absolute Legends is 7-5 up, which we know isn't true. So that's a bug. It shouldn't switch over, but it does. So just a bit of a knockoff fix, but it seems to work. Lines up the teams. See how the absolute legends do on the attack. Pretty much ghosts across the board, apart from Boaster, who isn't as aggressive. Makes sense if you're playing a Sage, having the wall, having the heal. So you don't want to necessarily be entry fragging or playing aggressively, but going to do a little bit of a dance with Ice Paper Hands, who's going to smoke off mid. The A-site is going to be hit, it seems, by this attack inside. Absolute Legends going up to ramp, but leaving the spike. It's kind of awkward. Soulcast is going to keep an eye on ramp from distance. Peeking, making it hard for him to move. Nothing happening just yet. Seems that Species is going to pick up the spike. Before anything happens, they're going to just prime themselves to push rather fast, but Eccles is going to get hit hard on the B side, but the movement is more on A. Probably waiting for this wall to break. They weren't expecting Ice Paper Hands up in that corner. That gets 2. He's going to push on ahead. Has control of the spike, so can take all of the space. Again, Official Boaster and Carcass, the only 2 surviving on this attack now. I'll play for retakes, playing for the plant. Now Carcass is backed up and Link is not afraid. Maybe should have been a bit more afraid than he was. Stun misses and Carcass gets another. Making it a 1 versus 2. And Cryptix is just going to stop that before it gets a bit too hype.
That goes there. Oh, this is a nice spot. Yes, that goes here, that goes there.
Pretty sure that Bolster is going to be playing with a couple of the Fish123 guys coming up soon, right? In the G2 show match. Representing Team UK, so I hope they win, but Eccles so far has been not the top fragger on his team, to say the least. Ended up to 11 frags now and has control over mid. Just wanted to check what kind of guns Absolute Legends we're going to have, and you'd be right in assuming that they are just holding onto pistols. Now Zik is just holding in this corner. Going to push up, but needs to be careful of where Link is. Link is not looking at all, and that's a nice headshot onto Eccles, but the peek is in from Link that probably realizes his mistake as he's just bunny hopping around. 9-5. So far, we haven't seen Absolute Legends do much on this attack. Certainly not as much as Fish123 did, but we're only 2 rounds in. You're going to be able to buy now. It was 2 rounds after the pistol that they were able to start their 4-round advantage, and having that again would put them level on score. But I feel it's going to be a lot harder to do on attack than it was on defense. Zik trying to take space on Heaven. The only one around there is going to be Link, that is having to chip both angles, but obviously he's going to miss the plays rotating in. They're just going to get slowed down by the Incendiary coming out of Ice Paper Hands, who now is rotated over to A. He's going to meet Zik in sightlines fairly soon. I just survived, dropping away. He's in the cyber cage. Zik is pushing aggressively, but Link was there to cover for him. Had a nice pixel perfect gap. Sider wants to follow suit, and he does have to help a Boaster that is going to catch him around 2. Carcass needs to be careful because Eccles is on the other side of that wall. Nice Paper Hands taken outside on ramp, so maybe not expecting people to be pushing on ropes like this. Certainly not. Link was not looking at all. The blast pack is coming in from Soulcast, but again, Boaster could get that nice kill. He's going to wall off away from CT, leaves a bit of a gap, but it's not going to be too much of a problem. As Eccles and Cryptix now need to rotate around. This plant is going to come in, and Eccles gets 2. Species now completely on his own. Rolling Thunder is available for Eccles if he wants to use it, and he actually decides to use it altogether, but misses him. He isn't expecting him in screens. He's flashing and clearing off sight, but Speezy is going to be holding off and around. I don't think Cryptix is well aware that this is where he is, so might even go for the defuse. Speezy might pick up the pace, but it's not a fake. He's dedicating to it fully. Trying to spray in from distance, able to clutch it out. Couldn't have happened really for some of the players at Boaster, set up rather nicely. And I think Fish123 were a little bit too passive in mid control. Allowed to flank to come in that players like Link and Co weren't expecting. And smart play from Speezy, putting himself in a 1 versus 2, dodges the Rolling Thunder, and Eccles just missed the mark entirely. If you want Fish123 to win, type 1. If you want Absolute Legends to win, type 2. I want to see what kind of fans we have in the chat. Scums of 1 and 2 with any luck. Guns are going to be affordable for both sides, although the attack is a bit low on armor in some cases. Ice Paper Hands is the same, but he does have the operator available. Is going to run into Zik. He's going to come around the corner onto ramp now. Meanwhile, the battle of mid is happening yet again. Ice Paper Hands misses the shots. You guys wanted me to watch him. I was expecting key ones, but the Rolling Thunder now coming through from Speezy, who's pushing onto heaven. Nobody's there, so it's going to miss entirely. Soulcaster's going to peek around this corner and does get the kill. The spike is dropped towards ramp. Luckily, Carcass is there to try and pick it up, but has to deal with a crossfire and the setup now. Soulcast is able to get a second. Has map control, and it's only going to be Cider now left that's coming through the rope room. Soulcast wanted to get a third. It's given a bit more room to breathe, but they see the legs, and it's going to be a big ask for Cider team to get onto the site to plant. I think he's going to stop that. Just as we saw Absolute Legends pulling it around in their favour in pretty cool style, to be fair. Fish123 are able to take their advantage back. Well, they need to get 3 more rounds to win this one. Soulcast getting a lot done in mid. Rather easy to do so considering the pistols that were available. Before the round is even noticeably started. Easy win for Fish123.
Yes, this should do.
And the operator is going to be a nice Paper Hands is hands. It's going to take an aggressive push, and it's a smart way considering the majority of this attack is over there. Nice Paper Hands getting one, gets Zik. Tries to get another, but Cider's going to punish that. The Resurrect is going to bring him back. The slow is there. Seems that Eccles wants to get more intel, more info. Maybe you aren't expecting him to be held so close. But the neural theft is going to give that away entirely. Yeah, Eccles knows that his number was up, so tried to play aggressively, but was punished for it. Zika's got to back off. He's been given the spike because I think Buster wants to do some aggressive stuff and takes a peek, but Cryptix is well aware that he can sort of hold that angle. Carcass is able to do a bit. It has this orbital strike on the attacking side. And they're going to be Cryptix and Soulcast left, and Cryptix is still getting a lot done. Second kill of this round. And the spike being planted. The 2 versus 3. Aren't really seeing Absolute Legends spread out too much, but Fish123 trying to wrap around. Doesn't matter though. BC is going to get kill onto one, and Cider holding a nice angle. I said that they were close together. My eyes did deceive me a bit there. Cider was nice and in behind. Now we're starting to see these rounds being traded. Because of the advantage that Fish123 built up for themselves, they can still afford to buy guns. Carcass is top fragging in this game so far. Ice Paper Hands not really having the aggro high fragging game that we expect from him. In fact, EPULZE is doing better. Even Soulcast is having a bit of a quiet one. It's a good game so far. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying watching both these teams play. Correct me if I'm wrong, Twitch, but Boaster's not in the official lineup of Absolute Legends. He's just playing today, right? Or is he on that lineup officially? Ice Paper Hands his position to give it up. Does have his own orbital strike. Just decides to run back into it for some reason. He's looking to use it. He's going to use it towards the mid-show, but catches absolutely nobody. But it does cut the spike away from the site. So it's a bit awkward now for Absolute Legends who just look a bit out of sorts. Aren't really sure where to hold. But in the meanwhile, EPULZE does die. And I think at this point, Fish123 are going to save. Bit of an odd round to lose. In regards to economy, yeah, they would have to save if they want to keep these guns. So willing to let this go to 11-8. They don't need to win too many rounds, but this is, again, close, much like the Ford on Bears game was on Split, but Haven was very one-sided for Fish123, but let's not talk about those maps until we get there. Absolute Legends doing pretty well so far, but if they could beat Fish123 here, it pretty much qualifies them for playoffs. It would be shocking to see Fish123 not qualify, but I don't think that'd happen. What's wrong with EPULZE doing better? EPULZE tends to be more of a supporting player and lurker. Ice Paper Hands, more often than not, tends to be a top fragger for his team. Of course, playing Brimstone versus playing Jet, he's not going to be able to play as aggressively, but EPULZE is more consistent than having high ups or downs, but not a bad game from Ice Paper Hands. It's a quiet one, but those two shots show that I need to climb up the table a little bit. Hand is equal on kills. Don't get me wrong, EPULZE has had a really good game. I think 17 for 14 is good this late to the game, whichever way you look at it. I think in a game like this, it's not necessarily like, oh, let's look, for example, Species, bottom of frags, it's his fault that they're losing. Isn't strictly true, is it really? Ghoster especially has had some pretty high impact moments, and he's bottom of frags too, but he's one of the shining moments. Just, you know, effectiveness does not equal big amount of kills, right? EPULZE being the IGL of the team too means that his job isn't necessarily getting us kills and fragging out in the server.
Fire in the hole! Fire in the hole! You will not kill my allies!
looking towards mid. Eccles has control of the spike though. That's pretty big for him. Isn't necessarily sure where the two members of this attacking lineup are going to be, but there's a little bit of clumping out of Carcass. Eccles can line it up. Going to try and do the same, but actually overthinking it. Rolling Thunder just narrowly misses yet again. Zik is going to punish that.
I have retrieved
He's
this
looking in the direction that there are players, but Link is going to put that one to bed. Fish123 winning on split, 13-8. And Absolute Legends did look okay-ish in spots, had a nice streak going, but as soon as we switched sides and Fish123 was on the defense, they were really controlling the game from then on out, but some really nice bright spells from Absolute Legends. I expected Fish123 to have a very quick day today with some of their games, and to an extent that's true for Fordham Bears, right? I think they won 13-8 and then like 13-3. But a 40-minute game. I think they did a pretty decent job, but they're not done and out just yet. Fish123 take a 1-0 lead. Absolute Legends now have Matt Pick. Music for this. Ask Absolute if they want to just not play the next game. This is good practice for them, to be fair. I think Prodigy and Fish123 have very much been the team that has like been steps ahead of, you know, Hip Hip Hip, Ninjas in Pajamas, but there are a few teams in this tournament, certainly yesterday, Dream Chasers and Worst Players didn't look bad. They beat Hip's team, and Jerome would consider them top 2. I think Prodigy put out their list of top teams, and it was like Fish123 at the top, because of course it was Prodigy second, but I think they took him out because they didn't want to be seen as like biased towards their own team, which, you know, is fair enough. And it's like Hip 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 a second, which I don't necessarily agree with. Certainly not after yesterday, considering Hip 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 didn't even qualify for this tournament. They're losing out to Dream Chasers and Worst Players. I think Absolute Legends are worth a shoe-in. I think just over time, teams are going to get a lot closer to the likes of Fish123 and all that jazz. Should be going into our next game. Not necessarily sure what map it's going to be. We do know that Fish are 1-0 up. We're going to take a quick break, a couple of minutes, and then we'll be back for the rest of this match. Not down and out just yet. So don't go anywhere. Go to the toilet, go get a snack, go do whatever. Trash talk on Twitch chat like you've been doing. We'll see you very shortly.